All right, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Doran. Caleb Wilson has a broken thumb. Belmont is out of the Arch Madness. Darius Acuff's not playing this weekend. What a fun afternoon of college basketball. What do you think, Graham?
I think that we're about to see some of these teams that we thought maybe could make a move to a different seed line and going to end up getting stuck on their seed line or maybe even fall down because these injury concerns across college basketball are really starting to make me think about some teams where maybe the resume looks a little bit better than I think the team is going to look going into the tournament. And that's going to give me some pause on where they should be seated.
Yeah, I still think the JT Toppin injury was the biggest. I think if Texas Tech is at full strength, I think they can win it all. I don't know that I ever felt that way about BYU or North Carolina. I'm guessing the Acuff is just, I mean, they said he was in a walking boot before his 49-point game against Alabama. I'm sure this is more just playing it safe with a guy who's been carrying that team all season long. I would guess he's all right for the SEC tournament, hopefully the NCAA tournament. But we could start there. I mean, if he is out for this game against who are they playing? Missouri on Saturday, and they lose. I mean, what are the seed implications there? Do you think? And I'll throw up the spreadsheet while you say that.
I think Arkansas, for me, is feeling like a 5 on the verge of a 4. But the problem for them is if they lose this one, I just don't see the 4 seed happening. So I really look at this as a very important game for Arkansas if they wanted to get up to the 4 line because they don't have a road win over a tournament team this year. You look at who they've beaten, it's at Oklahoma is their best true road win. I think that stands out like a sore thumb once you get into this area. So for me, that's the big implication for Arkansas is I think they really need to beat Missouri on the road to have an argument for a 4 seed, and this really hampers their ability to do that. On the other hand, Missouri, I think they're going to be a team we talk about a lot tonight on the mock selection because they're a team that I think we all feel good about being in the field. There's still some potential seed movement for them, and I think if they get this win over Arkansas, we're going to kind of struggle to figure out who do we take? Does Georgia stay amongst their top 5 wins, or is Georgia not a top 5 win? That's how strong the resume is compared to a lot of these other teams we're looking at. So Missouri, for me, it could be a significant seed movement if they get this victory against Arkansas.
Yeah, we talked about Missouri a good bit last night on the mock. I think it was Anthony that brought up that he's been struggling with what to do with them because the wins look better than the metrics. And I mean, we've talked about that before on our pod. Yeah, I agree. I think Missouri was our biggest divide of these teams. You see, we have their average at 36 and a half. I believe you're at 39. I'm at 34. I didn't drop them much. Who'd they lose to the other night? I don't even remember. Was that the Oklahoma game?
Yeah, they got blown
Uh,
out.
yeah, but yeah, I think they have a very nice stockpile of wins. I mean, how many teams have beaten Florida and Alabama and or excuse me, Florida and Kentucky? Not many. So yeah, I think even if Acuff is out, like whoa, I bumped my table there. If Acuff is out, like I'm not gonna really discount that for Missouri. I think that still goes down as an elite win that they'd be able to pick up, and they could probably become like a 7 seed, possibly. They probably need to do something early in the SEC tournament because I think they probably are playing in the second round of that. But yeah, I think like you said with Arkansas, like there are 5 that felt like they were close to a 4. I think looking at seed lists, I think a lot of people had like Virginia at 16, and then Arkansas was that buffer between Virginia and North Carolina. So people didn't have to grapple with the North Carolina won a road game over Virginia. Should North Carolina be a 4 seed? But now I think we're going to, end up dropping North Carolina a little bit, even though that maybe isn't fair. Like we didn't immediately drop Texas Tech when JT Toppin went out. We didn't immediately drop BYU when Richie Saunders went out, but also we're not going to get much data on North Carolina now. But they were also playing pretty well even without Caleb Wilson. So maybe we don't penalize them much. I don't know. But this isn't ACC day. We'll get into North Carolina in the mock later. I do think Arkansas leads us directly into Tennessee and Vanderbilt because they've just been like inseparable all season long. I do think Arkansas is starting to pull ahead a little bit. I think we both have them. I believe for all these top seven teams, with the exception of Kentucky, who were at like 24 and 25, we have the exact same seed for all six of them. So we're in agreement that Arkansas is a little bit ahead of Vanderbilt, and they're a little bit ahead of Tennessee. I think there's some head-to-head stuff going on there, obviously, but what do you think of that game coming up on Saturday between the Volunteers and the Commodores? You know, what's at stake in each direction?
I think the one that's interesting to me is Vanderbilt because I think Tennessee's going to move up to a 5 seed if they win that game. I'm going to be really tempted to put Vanderbilt on the 6th line if they don't win that one. I have not been convinced by Vanderbilt really all season. I locked them early in the year, but that was just to lock them in the field. Didn't mean I thought they were going to get a good seed. And looking at this Vanderbilt team, every time they seem to have an opportunity to say they're really a top-notch team, they don't really show up. And I think their metrics, we've talked about it all year. They keep making late comebacks in games they're blown out to make the score respectable. And the computer's like, yeah, it was a close game, could have gone either way. It's like, no, these really weren't close games that could have gone either way. Vandy was getting pounded by these teams. I think Vanderbilt, with their metrics, it's so easy to say they're a 5 seed. If they get swept by Tennessee, I just don't know you can keep them there anymore. Every time they seem to run into a similar caliber team, they just don't play well. I know they've got that win against Alabama, but we've talked about that one before. It's a little bit of a deceiving one. If anything, it makes me feel like, yeah, they're above St. Mary's, but they should be below all the SEC competition. Again, Vanderbilt's got a chance to go out and actually pick up a road win against Tennessee. That changes the calculus immensely. But if they don't get it, assuming St. John's picks up a win against Seton Hall, I'm feeling like St. John's and Tennessee would be on that 5 line and Vanderbilt would drop to the 6 for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I mean, they were what 14th in the reveal. They were a little bit higher than I think most of us were expecting. So the committee did like this resume a couple weeks ago, but if they lose to Tennessee, that's 2 losses to Tennessee since the top 16, plus a blowout loss at Kentucky. So yeah, I think dropping them from 14 to 21 ish for 3 losses, perfectly fair because, like as you mentioned, even their great quote unquote win over Alabama was, yeah. I mean, what Phylon was out in the second half. Aiden Sherrill missed the entire game, and it was still a close game. Like, yeah, I don't know.
The
I
other
was
thing that
surprised
could
to see
help
them
them, though,
14.
and again, I'm not trying to make this about North Carolina, this is the SEC pod, but to your point about North Carolina, if they get blown out by Duke, I do think there's a mental thing, right? We haven't been
Yeah.
seeing Caleb Wilson play recently, but now that it's Wilson is out for the tournament, if they get blown out by Duke, I think mentally that could enter the minds of some of the committee members.
Yeah, and like they've played all right lately, but they've done so like at home against Louisville, who we have questions about, against Clemson, and they did get pummeled by NC State. Granted, Vasar was also out for that game. I think that was a not surprising result, but um, yeah, if they lose bad, which they probably should anyway. Like Ken Plum has them projected to lose by 16, but that just leads credence to my point. They've been like in the 20 to 35 range on Ken Palm all season. It's their resume metrics that makes them more impressive. So now if it does become more of an eye test thing with them, if we're having to evaluate them, missing their most important player, maybe the committee does lean harder on the predictives with that team, and they could drop to like a 6, maybe even a 7 seed if they also no show the ACC tournament. And that would be great news for these SEC teams because we have a whole bunch of them in this range. Like even Georgia with the way they've been playing lately, like I could see them if they make a run in the SEC tournament. Maybe they vault ahead of the Tar Heels. They might already be ahead of them on Ken Palm. I don't know, where is Georgia on Ken Palm. 29 and 30. What a lucky guess. But North Carolina is ahead by 0.06 efficiency margin. But yeah, I think I'm surprised that Georgia has made it to a 7 seed. I I thought they were going to be, probably in half of our SEC pods. I was like, yeah, I don't really believe in Georgia. Now here they are. They picked up some great wins down the stretch. Got that win over Alabama the other night. That was massive. I think that was the one that finally cemented them as an actual definite tournament team. I mean, it certainly punched their bid as far as I'm concerned, but not only sealed the deal, but got them up the seed list a good bit. Obviously, we agree on Georgia at 28, but do you have anything you want to add on the dogs?
I'll just say, I mean, I think we always knew how athletic Georgia was, but once you see them hitting shots, they look fantastic if they can hit shots too. So I think Georgia deserving of being in the 7 seed conversation. They're our last 7 seed right now, but I think it's close. If they lose this weekend, they're probably headed for the 8-9 game.
All right, let's go down to the bubble teams. I don't think we even really need to talk about Florida. Everybody has them at 5 overall. Texas, Texas A&M, and Auburn. Two of them in, one of them out. Although I begrudgingly have Auburn as my last team in right now because of New Mexico's loss to Colorado State. But they have to beat Alabama, or I will be taking them out. You already have them as your fifth team out, but let's assume they do go into Tuscaloosa and get that win. How high do they vault back in? Because at that point, I believe they would have 7 quad one wins. Where's their resume? They're like 43rd in net. Scrolling, 40th in net. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be their fifth quad. Oh, they've lost a couple quad one wins lately, huh?
I
I
think
guess
the
the NC
caveat
State game dropped.
we'd have to see how the teams around them are doing, right? Like it matters how Texas does, Texas A&M, all that sort of stuff. But I do think Auburn, if they win at Alabama, they're probably to the top of the 11 line or the back end of the 10 line, one or the other, which I think means they're probably not headed to Dayton, which is crazy for them to be 5 out for me, but then jump up that high. And I think it really comes down to, for me, it's a selectable versus not selectable thing. I don't find their resume right now selectable. If they win at Alabama, now they've already got the win at Florida, at Alabama, very selectable resume at that point, and I think they move up the seed list pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with Ohio State just a week ago, where they went from I can't possibly have this team in to I can't possibly put this team in Dayton. They're better than that. I think maybe Auburn would even fly straight up to a 9 seed for me if they win that game. Like you said, it's a selectable problem, and the committee always loves to put if there is a 15-loss SEC team in the tournament, they usually are a 9 seed. It's happened, I think it's happened 4 times in the SEC. One time it was a 10 seed, and I think the other 3 they were a 9 seed. Roll Tide Rewind asks, has a 16-loss at-large team ever made the tournament? No, just 4 15-loss SEC teams. There have been some like 22-loss teams that made it as an auto bid, so there's something to watch for the rest of the 10 days left until Selection Sunday. But yeah, I think they need to win that game. Otherwise, I'm keeping them out. Just like Miami, Ohio, if they win, I'm keeping them in. Can't talk about those teams separately anymore. They got to always come up hand in hand. Thanks, Bruce Pearl. Texas and Texas A&M, who just so happens are average of them. They both landed right at 39 overall, so back end of the 10 line. Texas, a weird resume for sure, even weirder than last year. 1-9 against Quad 1A, but 6-0 against Quad 1B, but then 3-3 against Quads 2 and 3. I mean, I don't know what to do with them, and neither does keep KPI, which has them at 58 overall. I think Texas A&M is also like around 60, 56. So KPI hates both these teams, but all the other metrics mandate that we have them somewhat safely in. What do you think about those two teams heading into the final weekend?
I mean, you could see it, right? We think they're virtually indistinguishable as resumes. I do think my personal belief is Texas is the better team, but I
Yeah.
do kind of like A&M's resume just a little bit more, which balances out to basically having the same positioning in the field. I think both are in really good shape to make the dance. That said, it's not impossible that either could fall out of the field. So As long as they win one game remaining the rest of the year, they'll be fine. But they better not lose two in a row because if they do, it becomes very scary very quickly.
Yeah, not only would it just be bad to pick up losses, Texas finishes the season at home against Oklahoma, so that would be a bad loss. A&M finishes the season at LSU, which I think would be a quad one, but I mean, you just don't want to pick up losses. A loss at LSU is not going to look good, regardless of it, whether it's quad one or quad two. I
And
guess
I think
LSU is 75 in net, so it would be temporarily a quad one at least.
I mean, the other thing that I think we're about to see, which doesn't bode well for Texas A&M in that scenario, is the Georgia win is looking better. But then you get to at Texas at Auburn, those are bubble teams. Whether they're in or out, they're bubble teams. Kentucky is probably going to lose to Florida, which if you have them as a 6 seed like we do right now, or top 7 seed on that 6-7 line, they're probably going to drop to a 7 seed more likely than not if they lose this game to Florida. And all of a sudden you're thinking, if Georgia loses this weekend, maybe they don't have a win versus a top 6 seed, and then they don't have a win versus a top 7 seed away from home. Maybe potentially gets a little tricky for A&M if they lose two in a row. Some of those wins might not look quite as nice by the time we get to Selection Sunday as they do right now.
uh, Playing devil's advocate pod asked, was Mizzou your mystery team from yesterday's pod regarding the injuries?
It regarding the injuries is actually Virginia Tech when I got into the Elon game and how much that affected their
Yeah.
efficiency. But I did keep pounding the stone for Jaden
Hey,
because thank you. But really, I think that was an underrepresented part of the profile. I know Rocco kept hammering them for losing so handily to Kansas and Illinois, and that wasn't a complete basketball team for Missouri. And do I think they would have beaten either of those teams if they were healthy? No, I don't. But do I think it would have been more competitive? Yeah, I think it would have been more competitive. I think they're playing better basketball. So I think Missouri, we talked about this, could be much higher up the seed list if they beat Arkansas. And really, I think it's a recognition of a very solid profile. You look at those bad losses down there at Notre Dame, at Ole Miss, those aren't that bad of losses, right? Those are quad two losses. We're not talking about taking a loss to Loyola Chicago at home like some teams have. This is a really solid profile. I think beating Arkansas could be the thing that tips it so high that the committee puts them past teams like UCF, for example.
they don't have any losses outside of or worse than Q2A. I believe they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 against the top 1.5 quads, which is pretty solid when you're talking about bubble teams, and especially since one of those wins was against Florida, who's just been an absolute world beater over the last 2 months. I think we're good unless you got anything else to add. I gotta get prepping on my 5 teams for tonight.
See you at the muck.
Yes. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Make sure you watch the Miami, Ohio game tonight. That is an absolutely crucial one for the NCAA tournament purposes. But until next time, take care